Tonight, the globalist Luciferian pedophiles are panicking as they are hiding a secret, and Q tells us to be on suicide watch. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, I start off each one of these episodes by saying thank you to each and every one of my subscribers, because truly, without you guys, this channel would not be possible. Now, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please come here to this landing page. Click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified, because as soon as information is made available to me, I make it available to you. Now, we're just going to jump right into the latest Q posts. Okay, so first we have this right here. And if you guys, like I always say, if you want to catch up on where we're at and get the readout on what this is all about here on the right-hand side of your screen that you're looking at, you can go back here and just watch this video. It's the last video, and watch the last few if you want to catch up to where we are or have been going for the last couple of days. So this is the first one, and I'm going to read through it, and it's kind of going in with what Q was saying the day before, and we're going to read right through it. It says, review time, not seeking re-election. Senate, Bob Corker, Republican. Jeff Flake, Republican. Orrin Hatch, Republican. No Name, Republican. Departure soon. House, Bill Schuster, Bob Goodlatte, Carol Shea Porter, and it gives their political affiliation right here for those of you who don't know. So I guess I'll read that too then. Charles Dent, Republican. Darrell Issa, Republican. Dave Reichart, Republican. Dave Trott, Republican. Dennis Ross, Republican. Edward Royce, Republican. Elizabeth Etsy, Democrat. Frank Lobiondo, Republican. Gene Green, Democrat. Greg Harper, Republican. Elena Rose Lethinum, Republican. Jeb Henserling. These people have the worst, weirdest names. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sure a lot of people probably, I don't recognize every single name on this list, to be quite honest with you, but I'm sure that you guys out there watching all across this country recognize people who are representing you in your district. So it should not be a surprise that Q's pointing to this to let us know that Trump is cleaning out the swamp. So Gene Green, Democrat. Greg Harper, Republican. I'm sorry if I'm repeating a few. Jim Bridenstine, Joe Barton, John Delaney, John Duncan Jr., Lamar Smith, so on. I'm not going to read through each one of these names. It's getting a little repetitive for me even. So I'm going to go ahead and just let you guys read this. I'm going to leave this list up here for a second. So if you guys want to skim through it for yourself, you'll be able to see what Q is referring to. But each and every one of these people on here are obviously not seeking re-election for a reason. Now, is that reason because they were involved in something? People that stand out here obviously are like Paul Ryan, who's on this list, and others, Trey Gowdy. It's funny that Trey Gowdy, Bob Goodlatte, all these people are on here as well. So it's a wonder why they're not seeking re-election, especially given the fact that they're obviously, or were doing well. Now, resigned, he's going to go through more. Al Franken, we know him. Blank Farenthold, Jason Chaffetz, John Conyers Jr., Louis Slaughter, Patrick Meehan, Patrick Tiberi, Thad Cochran, Tim Murphy, Trent Franks, and Xavier Becerra. Now, these are people from the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. So, and also the Attorney General of California. And let's not forget what happened today with the Attorney General, or yesterday with the Attorney General of New York stepping down. So, here's what we have to do, though. It says add into that plus the Department of Justice, FBI, and CEOs. So you combine these lists. I'm going to work on, it's a big project to take on, but in my spare time, I've been just lightly putting together, and this list is going to make a lot of difference for me, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this list and put it up against all the people who are being named as being ousted of the FBI and the DOJ, and I'm going to try to put together lists of CEOs that I can reference. There are lists of CEOs that exist who have resigned, and just see if there's any connections there. I know it's a lot of work. If you guys want to help out there, feel free. It's a group effort, but taking all this information and kind of trying to digest it for you a little bit so I can give you guys something that's a product that you guys can view in a relative amount of time that actually is going to give you some information that's important. But Q goes on to say, conspiracy, nothing happening, good Latin, Gaudi, important, kill box, the brackets. Chairman of the House Committee on the Judiciary, we know that's Bob Goodlatte, and the Chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, we know that's Trey Gowdy, right? It says, why is the New York Attorney General resignation important? Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a sick and disturbing story. Okay, this is an article out of InfoWars from Paul Joseph Watson where he's talking about what Judge Napolitano said about the fact that the Attorney General of New York resigned so quickly after Eric Schneiderman's alleged sexual abuse of women became public. He immediately resigned. And Napolitano, for those of you who don't know, is a judge correspondent on Fox News, actually suggested that, in fact, Schneiderman must have had others around him who knew what was going on. Now, if you scroll down, you can read through this. You can watch a little clip of Judge Napolitano, but what he's saying is that the elite knew, the globalists, whoever, the Luciferians, and not just that, just the people running the government, I guess you would say, in New York knew about it. So I guess you would have to be pretty evil to allow that to just stand and go unfettered. But Jack Posobiec did a great job identifying the nexus between all these people. You have here Eric Schneiderman with Hillary. You have here Eric Schneiderman with Uma. You have here Eric Schneiderman with Hillary. Again, this is indicative about what we have been talking about, right? And what Q is going to tell us is very important to understand in the full context of what we're covering here. Okay, so you have even James Woods pointing out that Schneiderman's here with the little, I never realized how scrawny and wimpy looking, and I don't mean that, it's one thing to be small, but this guy, he's small-minded. He's a evil globalist Luciferian. Alex Soros, for you who don't know. In my opinion, my humble opinion, I don't know if those things are actually true about him or not, but I can just tell you this, him, and he is the son of George Soros, and he has been infiltrating many different political branches in different areas of the country, especially in the wealthy elite areas where he's in the social circles. Therefore, he connects with these high-ranking, powerful officials, and obviously is playing games of influence there. But we'll just go ahead and say James Woods is always spot on with a lot of the stuff that he points at. And so is Jack Posobiec, who talks about how Alexander Soros has given this much money over the span of, 2 years to Eric Schneiderman. So, and he was a donor. So, I mean, yeah, of course they're going to be all pally and buddy. But Q is going to tell us to look even closer into this. Now, it says, why is the New York Attorney General resignation important? What past, current, high-profile FBI investigations are within the jurisdiction of New York? Well, obviously, we all know about the alleged blackmail files found on Anthony Weiner's laptop by the NYPD. Now, why would that be very important? Apparently, people at the NYPD had reported to anonymously to sources that there were indications of money laundering, child exploitation, sex crimes with minors, perjury, pay to play through Clinton Foundation, obstruction of justice, and other felony crimes found on that laptop, which was being used as a form of blackmail, intimidation, or just extortion, however you want to put it, apparently as a backup plan for either Huma or Anthony Weiner. We're not sure. Obviously, it would have to have been Huma who got that information out, or it could have been Anthony who stole it from Huma. We don't know, but what we do know is that there is allegations that there's an incredible amount of very, very disturbing information on that laptop, and that they've been fighting very hard to keep that information out of the public sphere. Now, what we're talking about here is something that's incredibly important also to understand. Q says define roadblock. So Schneiderman was a roadblock, and it's very obvious if you look back. Trump tweeted about Schneiderman in 2013, actually I believe on 9/11 of all days, where he talks about how Anthony Weiner went down and another went down, and that people are gonna that Eric, he calls him lightweight Attorney General Schneiderman, won't last very long when people find out what he's really like, or something to that effect. And why is that important? Well, obviously Trump has been very aware of things. If he had knew about it in 2013, then the fact that somebody's coming forward and accusing him is all that really takes to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, which is why he resigned so quickly, which goes to support what Judge Napolitano has been saying. But this is the roadblock they're throwing up. It was with Schneiderman. He was the roadblock between the New York Attorney General's office seeking an investigation further into the crimes uncovered at the NYPD. Is that possible? That's certainly something to be thought about. It says, we have more than we know. You have more than you know. Do not fall victim to MSM, other fake, false narrative pushes. So don't listen to the narrative push that's coming in the fake, false news. There's going to be a lot of pushes in one direction or the other. They're going to try to get you to look to look in any other direction besides that. And I think it's very profound to think that everybody here who's watching this channel probably is not that gullible. So it's a heartening thing to know. But at the same time, please wake up those that you love and care about, who may not be as cleverly aware as we are, if you want to put it in those terms. But Q says, stay the course. Where we go one, we go all. So obviously that's what we want to continue to push here on this issue, is just continuing to stay the course behind first putting our faith in God, obviously, but then putting our faith in POTUS, and putting our faith in trusting the plan here with Q, because we've only had proofs of Q, and we've only had more and more reason to think that they're acting obviously for the betterment of our country as a whole, and that these are true patriots who are actually spurring this revolution that we are in right now. It's really it's very nice to see, but at the same time, it's going to be hard work. It's going to be a long road. None of this is going to be easy. It's going to require a continuing effort to just spread this information, to analyze it, and to put it together, because like I've said before, it's incredible that we have this access to this information. So we have to take advantage of it and do the best we can to report on it. And share it with our friends and family and those we love, and even those we don't necessarily love, even though we try to love everyone. Here we go. Next one. So this is very interesting. Look at the timestamps here. I'm going to explain what happened. But you have 1944-18 and 1944-19. So a second before Q's post here, something interesting happens. An AN0N using Q's newest trip code posts the 3-letter word hey using Q's trip code. That's not good. Apparently what happened was, Q explains here, he says, or they say, we made a mistake on Q research exposing the password. We did not input, quote, Q hashtag, unquote, in the beginning, which exposed the password. Error corrected, safe Q. So they had to create a new trip code, obviously. So for those of you who keep track of these things, this will be Q's new trip code. But jumping right back here, this is, I mean, it happens, I guess, but we'll go into Q's next post, which was supposed to be his next post when this AN0N jumped in here and put, hey, and I think it's good. I mean, obviously the AN0N was not trying to do anything malicious. They just posted, hey, as in like they were probably just stunned that they could access the actual Q account and post from it. I'm sure anybody in that position would feel the same way. So they may have just been pointing it out, but it's definitely something to be considered. So going right into the next Q post. Today, evil lost control / leverage of Iran. Today, POTUS took control of Iran. Today, with pending sanctions and military actions, POTUS will gain more ammunition intel against them. Suicide watch. The deal kept Iran quiet. The goal was to keep POTUS in until impeachment term end. Bigger than people can imagine. Treason is 1/10. Ask yourself, why are they panicking? Ask yourself, why is UK, France, and Germany so involved? Trips to the White House? What are they hiding? Why is HRC in New Zealand? Is New Zealand part of the Five Eyes? Why is this relevant? Suicide watch. Q. So obviously what it's referring to is today evil lost control leverage of Iran, and today POTUS took control of Iran. Well, first of all, it's been suggested very much so that the deep state had a big part in helping Iran develop a nuclear program, and that's been a part of their plan from the beginning. And I think that is the secret that ultimately these countries are hiding. It's something that was obviously agreed to in secret. It was agreed to between countries, in mostly between the United States and the European Union, and it was a strategic decision by Obama in order to, honestly, the thought behind it is probably pretty nefarious, and I don't want to jump into where that line of thought goes, but I can just tell you this, that they did it to ruin our country. They did it to destabilize the Middle East. They did it to create a constant war that would justify the military-industrial complexes, war machines, to be constantly fed by the American taxpayer, thereby siphoning trillions of dollars out of the American taxpayers' pockets in order to pay for never-ending wars all across the globe. That's my personal opinion. Now, I can't tell you whether or not that's true, but that's just what I believe is going on behind the scenes. Okay? But when they're talking about what happened with it, obviously President Trump had this great, it wasn't anything too spectacular, but it was a speech where he explains that Iran has broken the deal. Israel pointed out that they had nukes, so on and so forth. Those are the things that he was citing. But I've said this before in the past that there is no benefit to us getting into a war with Iran. Also, it seems like the fight with Iran is more wanted by Israel and Saudi Arabia than it is wanted by people in the United States. At least those who have some sort of logic left to understand that endless wars in the Middle East are not necessarily the answer to securing our republic. But let's just go ahead and see what's happening. Apparently, right after Trump finished this speech, or shortly thereafter, you have Israel reportedly launching airstrikes into Syria. So were those airstrikes targeted at specific facilities that Q in previous posts has suggested existed on behalf of Iran in northern Syria that were dedicated to weapons research and development? That would be what Q has insinuated in the past. So it would be certainly something to note that if Israel is launching these airstrikes into Syria, they may be targeting the weapons facilities that Q is referring to possibly being in existence in northern Syria that were put there by Iran. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments. That's kind of where I jump to with these things, and it's just interesting to think about. If you guys have any input, please let me know. Now it says the pending sanctions and military actions, POTUS will gain more ammunition intel against them. So right now I think what that is referring to is something that's very interesting. So through the negotiation of the Iran deal by John Kerry and Barack Obama and others who were involved in that deal, they actually basically, I guess the phrase would be, they bent us over a barrel. We didn't have a choice on that one. It was an unfair deal, and now it's come back to where they have leverage against us, right? And I think that they're actually involved in hiding things as well. We're going to talk about that in a second. But this has all been exploratory on Trump's part. He's working very hard right now to engage the Iranian regime, because if you think about it, if you just had 8 years of non-engagement and just letting them develop a nuclear program with no oversight and this crazy, ridiculous deal where we just gave them billions of dollars of cash, you have to start somewhere. So I think that, and for people who want instant gratification, I'm sorry, I don't believe that you're going to get that in this situation. It just does not seem logically possible at this point to have an instant win here. But you guys just stick with it and understand that we're collecting the intelligence. We're getting ammunition to use against them at the negotiating table. And I hope and believe that President Trump will end up making and negotiating a far better deal with Iran, just like he's done in North Korea, that will appease the Iranian people, while at the same time it will bring a more peaceful stance to that region, which will in turn help global efforts to continue to promote prosperity, promote nationalism, promote sovereignty, promote borders. These things are so important, especially as you have organizations like the United Nations, or the United Nations and the EU trying to destroy borders and destroy countries and destroy what makes our country great, and that's the identity that we take as Americans, and the fact that we do believe that we are an exceptional country. So you guys do with that as you will. But the suicide watch to me is obviously talking about there could be deaths, there could be people who are, guilty of things that end up having remorse or guilt and then end up taking their life. Now that's a tragic thing. I don't want to promote that, or I don't want that to happen to these people. But, if evil is being gotten rid of, then in most cases I would just say good riddance. And that's the cold, harsh reality of what we're dealing with here. We have good and we have evil, and the evil is very powerful with Satan and his demons and all of I'll show you, what an actual demon looks like here in a second. But this is a very, very profound battle we find ourselves in. This is going to be an epic battle. It's going to be a battle of our times, and we're going to continually redefine ourselves, I should say, every day as we fight these evil globalists, Luciferian pedophiles, and pick them off one by one, metaphorically speaking. And if they are if they're actually criminals, then they will get their comeuppance. They'll get their due. That's the one thing about the devil, is that he'll always give you the due, So these people have chosen the wrong side of the battle. God is the right side and good. So apologize. Don't mean to get too much of a rant here. All right. And that's just my take on that. If you guys think anything different, if you pick up anything else, please share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. The Iran deal, or the deal, kept Iran quiet. Now, I think Iran knows a lot more than they're letting on. If they start talking about certain people, that's why you have John Kerry going over there trying to save face, because John Kerry realizes that he may have compromised himself and others in the negotiation process with Iran by giving them info or access or making promises that they couldn't or should not have, that could be interpreted as illegal and violation of other laws in our Constitution. So that's certainly to be kept an eye on as we go forward. And it says here that The goal was to keep POTUS in until impeachment / term end. Bigger than people can imagine. Treason is 1/10. Okay, so what they were trying to do, I think, was to keep President Trump, in the Iran deal until his impeachment or the end of his term, where they were hoping to replace him with somebody else, a globalist who would keep the ball rolling in that scheme that they're running with Iran, with this deal. So obviously we've put a stop to that. POTUS has put a stop to that, and there is not going to be any future possibility of us just capitulating in the way that we did to Iran, and to make this, like I said, this perpetual conflict in the Middle East that can only be solved with trillions of American taxpayer dollars and blood of American soldiers. So that is certainly something we really would be smart to avoid in the future at all possible, if at all possible. The goal was to keep POTUS in until impeachment, obviously, but then it says bigger than people can imagine. So there is a lot more than people can even imagine going on beneath the surface. And I've been saying this for a while now, but just go back and watch some of my last videos if you guys want to hear about some of the stuff that may be going on beneath the surface that we need to keep an eye out for. Treason is 1/10. I think other things that people are going to be guilty of is sedition. They're going to be guilty of things like, in my opinion, there are people who are going to be arrested for things like organized crime. They're going to be organized fraud. You name it, the criminal. You name the criminal activity, and people are probably going to be getting picked up for it. So treason is 1/10. Now treason's pretty serious, and it is an offense that you can be punished with death for. But imagine if that's 1/10. What other things are they getting into? I mean, we talked about they're globalists, they're Luciferians, they're pedophiles, they're sickos, they're engaged in weird occult activities, ceremonies, sacrifices, rituals. It's disgusting and it's disturbing. It has to stop, and we're cleaning it out. And this is what the swamp cleaning looks like. Now, it says, ask yourself, why are they panicking? Ask yourself, why is the United Kingdom, France, and Germany so involved? Fairly obvious. They're covering their butts because they got in on this deal. I mean, to them, I believe that the implosion of Europe is their ultimate goal. If they can implode each country, then they can justify starting a global or a broader national movement, which would be something like what the EU has become. So it only gives more power to the EU to see a devolution of Europe as far as the nation state goes, and then the evolution of Europe into a singular state. And that's what they want. And how are they doing it? Well, they're just they got rid of Gaddafi, right? That was the capstone of Africa. It was keeping all of that migrant flow at bay. And now they're just floating right across the Mediterranean, and they're moving right into Europe. And you have this incredible new demographic rising in Europe all throughout, of these military age male Muslims that are just basically doing all types of incredibly crazy things. You see the stories in London and in London about rape gangs, and in Sweden about how it's the new rape capital, and you have just violence and all this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that every one of them are guilty of that, but I'm saying that there is something called proportionality, where and there is another thing that's called rationality. So if you think about it, there's these huge proportions of Muslim immigrants coming in, and then there's a huge proportion of increase in crime. These things end up being usually connected, correlatively speaking. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments. But I think that's what they're hiding. That is the whole scheme that they've been running over there. And I think Obama and his administration was complicit in allowing this to happen. And that was a part of the broader scheme, is basically selling our country out down the river, which is pretty bad. So you guys let me know what you think. obviously. It says, why is HRC in New Zealand? Is New Zealand part of the Five Eyes? Why is this relevant? Suicide watch, Q. People are going to be getting off, apparently, what Q is suggesting. He's saying that there's obviously some nefarious stuff going on with the Five Eyes. For those of you who don't know, is the five intelligence agencies banding together to spy on each other's citizens so that they can avoid getting in trouble with their own country's laws. You have New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, or the UK, and Canada and the United States are what make up the Five Eyes intelligence agencies. And of course, Hillary's going to New Zealand because that's where her, probably her Dr. Evil underground lair of Satanist worship and child sacrifices, allegedly. I don't know. I don't laugh at that. I laugh at the picture of her being down there, even though it's sick and disturbing. So I only laugh as opposed to being angry. Yeah, so that's what she's doing down there. She's down there gathering intel, using their intelligence agencies to spy and get more information. She has all the blackmail, I think, in my opinion, on everyone that she needs to blackmail. And obviously, that's the probably the weakest point of entry for the Five Eyes. I mean, a lot of the other countries have been called out now, but she will be in Melbourne, I believe, as well. So she's connected to that. If you don't think she is, I mean, she's the former Secretary of State. She has connection to all these intelligence agencies. Obviously, you have John Brennan and James Clapper and Comey and all these guys carrying water for Hillary. So there is certainly something going on there, but we'll have to wait and see. And if you want to see that picture of a demon, I was going to show you. It's this one right here. Now look at those dark eyes. I mean, she looks like some kind of demonic woman. And I don't know what to say. It's disturbing, but she was talking about moving to New Zealand after losing the election, and oh man, why, Lord, did she not give us that gift of leaving our country forever? But we do proceed, and we trust in the Lord. But this is awful. She's down there obviously collecting information, working with the intelligence agencies, trying to spy on those that would work against her. So I think that's definitely what Q is referring to there. And the Suicide Watch will have to watch out for suicides in the news and see if there's anything that could be correlated back to these posts about people who may have been involved in other things. Now the last two posts is Q changing his trip code again, right? And this is the whole thing that we just talked about where, the AN0N got the password, and then we talked about how Q explained that he accidentally exposed the password, and now they've changed the password. So it's going to be posting under a new trip code. I hope that all makes sense for everyone. But for those of you who don't know, trip code is like a username, and you have a passcode to get in, like a password, and it's just how you can post as the same person. It's how we identify who Q is when he posts. So that is exactly what happened, and he remedied the situation very fast. So no harm, no foul, I guess, there. But I guess that could have gone a lot worse, if you ask me. Now, before we wrap it up today, we're going to actually talk about this crazy stuff that's going on. First, you have the Met's Gala's Catholic-themed ball. I mean, it's disgusting. And you look at these women, this is what they dress up as. And then what gets even worse, and that I'm not bashing Catholics. I think Catholics are some of the greatest people I've met. But obviously there's some very big time corruption going on in the Catholic Church. And I think a lot of people have been compromised. And these are publicly known stories that are coming out about, priests in high positions being compromised for their pedophilia and child trafficking and things of that nature. I mean, this is sick and awful stuff. But you have these women here dressing up as, she's dressed up as like the Pope apparently, and she's dressed up as an angel. This is somebody, Rihanna and Katy Perry, I guess. These are popular people for the kids today, which is sick and sad to me. But then I read this story where it's talking about how the Cardinal of Okay, so the Cardinal of New York's Roman Catholic Diocese is the one who gave Rihanna this hat to wear at this ball. Oh, and I don't think any of those people are Catholic. I'm pretty sure Rihanna and the other one are not Catholic. So it's just, to me, it should be considered blasphemous. But obviously, not many people seem to care that all that much. Now, here's another one that's a breaking story that's coming out here, where it's talking about how this Smallville actress we've talked about before, Allison Mack. Now, this girl is in some really crazy stuff here. She was in this Nexium cult with Keith Raniere as the master of the whole cult, the leader of the cult. And she started off as a sex slave and then became a master, a sex slave master. And yeah, she is just in all types of stuff. But she's actually talking about how she helped recruit people for the Rothschilds, allegedly. This is like this story just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And it's incredible that what blows my mind about all this, right? This maybe gets 5 minutes of national media coverage when you have Stormy Daniels getting wall-to-wall coverage on every major news outlet in the country. And here you have this girl who is an actress who is holding slaves in a slave cult, a sex slave cult, and she's spilling the beans that all of the highest, elite, richest celebrities are involved in this stuff. I mean, all we can do is pray, folks. We can pray that these tortured souls somehow get their dues, justice from the Lord. I can't tell you that I have all the answers, but I can tell you that this woman is sick, and it's, a lot of people say it's just that they get sucked into it and they get conditioned, and it's very possible she was conditioned into being this way. But let's just call it what it is. It's satanic. It's the devil at work. Here and today he is alive, which just goes to prove that God is alive, and he will fight and defeat all of this evil in due time. Now, all we have to do is remain faithful in the meantime. But that's going to be it for this episode of Just Informed Talk. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. If you're trying to find a way to help the channel, the best way you can help the channel is to go ahead and come here. If you have not hit that subscribe button, please click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. The second best way you can contribute to this channel is to scroll down and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights about what you think QAnon meant in all of his posts this evening. Now, I really would be interested to hear all of your insights, so please leave them down there. We have a great group of thoughtful, intelligent people who continually come and leave their contributions as far as what they think's going on. So even if you can't comment, at least scroll down and read through the comments. I guarantee you're going to learn something you didn't know before. But that's going to be it for this episode. And before we go, we're going to talk about a couple other things. If you're looking for another way to support the channel, why don't you come over here to Patreon. That's patreon.com. You can search Just Informed Talk. You'll come here to this landing page. Click this button to become a patron. You can check out my rewards and my goal. And I really appreciate your assistance and your contributions here. So please come by and check this out. Thank you in advance to everybody who does that. But before we go, we're going to talk about the most important thing, and that is God. And what we're going to talk about is having that hope in the Lord. And in that hope, we seek our salvation through God. But how does God tell us that we're going to get salvation? Well, he tells us many different ways, especially throughout the Bible. And we have to maybe sometimes refresh ourselves on some of those things. And what better way than to read this great verse here out of 1 Peter. It's chapter 1, verse 3 to verse 10. And it's a smaller portion of scripture, but it's very powerful in the words that are used there. So I really, really hope and pray that these words hit your heart and hit your soul the way they hit mine. And they just bring that light into your heart that we all seek. And it gives you a better understanding of the living hope that we have in God. It says, Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has given us a new birth into living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that is imperishable, uncorrupted, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who are being protected by God's power through faith for a salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. You rejoice in this, though now for a short time you have had to be distressed by various trials, so that the genuineness of your faith, more valuable than gold, which perishes though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. You love him, though you have not seen him. And though not seeing him now, you believe in him and rejoice with inexpressible and glorious joy, because you are receiving the goal of your faith, the salvation of your souls. How powerful are those words? I mean, it makes me so thankful and grateful to God to know that his love is that which we are hearing here. That he's telling us that the resurrection of Christ is meant to be imperishable and uncorrupted and unfading, and it's kept in heaven for us. And he goes on to say that the genuineness of our faith, which is more valuable than gold, may result in praise, glory, and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So it tells us to love him. It tells us that though we have not seen him, and though not seeing him now, we believe. That's the power of God. And that's the hope that we carry inside of us every single day. That's why I tell you guys to pray every day. That's why I say, whether you're happy, sad, or indifferent, just pray. And if you're having doubts, if you're having trouble, if you're going through a very hard time right now, if you've experienced loss, if you're experiencing pain, if you're experiencing suffering, seek God, seek his wisdom. Understand that your soul is worth so much more than anything in this world, and God just wants you to understand that. And God wants you to understand that your soul is more valuable, your faith in God is more valuable than gold. So hold on to your faith. Don't ever lose it. Remember that God loves you, and that God is here for you, and that God will love you and be there for you as long as you abide in him. So that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. Again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thanks again for watching. This has been Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.